The Room at the End of the Hall, written by Andrew Gaboury. This story is inspired by the real-life tale of William MacWherrell. This is the Peel County Jail up at the top in blue. It is situated beside the courthouse. The courthouse was designed to look orderly. The jail was designed to look scary, austere, and foreboding. The jail cells are built into the stone foundations. They are cold, unwelcoming places stripped of any luxury. Some are even stripped of light. Each one pleaded innocence until the end, until they walked down the hall. Each one pleaded innocence until that door was opened, the door at the top of the stairs, the one at the end of the hall, the door no one ever went in, the door no one ever wanted to go in. They said the floor moved behind there. As soon as you stood on it, you would give way. It said the wanton waited below, their eyes hungry to feast on whatever flesh fell from above. It said the wanton would speak and chant and cheer from below. It must have been a horrible sound. The door was only opened 5 times in its history. Once to build it and the room behind it. Once to demolish it and the room behind it. And the other 3, well, the other 3 were because of the wanton. He said he was innocent. They said he was two-faced. It was eerie, the way he smiled at the guards, the way he joked around when everyone else could see what was around his neck. "I'm not afraid," was his refrain, and he showed it. That smile of his, an uncommon sight in the jail in those days. His manners, always thanking the guards, was enough to put a strange seed in the pit of their stomachs. A seed that would grow and make them forget, every so often, why he was there in the first place. Oh, he would make them laugh. They'd answer him honestly, strike up a conversation. It's good that they were many, and he was one. Whenever they felt the seed starting to grow, one would pluck it out, remove it, deny its roots. They would remember his second face, a face capable of brutality. Two elder farmers in their farmhouse, 2 elders so close to the grave already, but he helped them along with that smile of his, that smile that never really seemed to fit into his surroundings, that insidious smile. He worked for them for years. For years he would toil the earth, sweat amongst the corn, give water to the soil. And they were sure he would flash that same smile to this couple every day when they would offer him coffee, breakfast, a cold drink, when they would let him take days off or say goodnight. He would always flash that smile and say, "Thank you, you're so kind." For there is kindness in his voice and a softness in his eyes, and that's the worst part of it all. That calmness, that honest generosity. There was something about his certainty that made the guards also want to believe him. He would speak about them, the guards, to others. He would speak wonderful things, that they were entirely good to him, that he was never mistreated, and that with their help he was ready to die. He kept saying that he was ready. He welcomed it fully, even though he held on to his innocence. Wringing his hands, he would stare at his fingers sometimes. His eyes would travel far away. They always wondered where he went when that happened. Maybe it was back to that night. The last time he touched their flesh, the last time he held a sickle. Or maybe he just couldn't recognize his fingers anymore. Maybe every time he looked, he saw someone else's hands. Someone's hands with memories written into their lines, scars he'd never seen before. Whatever it was, he was good at keeping secrets. Even when he walked down that hallway, even when the door grew larger and larger and came closer and closer, even when he was able to hear the wanton below, their terrible chatter, the shuffling of their feet, the clawing of their hands. Even then, he only smiled and said, "Thank you." Thanks for watching, and now I'm going to give you a few tips about building your own shadow puppet show. You can see some of my shadow puppets here. Most of them are made out of cardstock just for the rigidity of them. You can see this little clawed hand here is just masking taped to a kitchen skewer. Very, very useful tool. It's all about drawing and figuring out how to create the shadow you want. So this hand, for instance, cutting out the outline of it is not just enough because you want some details. So you've got to cut out some things inside, right? You have to think about the card that you're left with is going to create the shadow, the black bit. So everything you cut away will become light. Some it's easier to do than others. This guy, for instance, he's a little more simple compared to the other ones. I didn't do all of the details in his face or in his arms. I missed some of those, but you know, sometimes you make do with what you can do at that time. This door, for instance, is a really wonderful way to create perspective with these moving bits. Bringing it close and far away from the light source will create a sense of growing or moving. This is my little light. It's got a halogen bulb. It's a little DIY thing that's got a dimmer switch on the back. It's handheld. It's really wonderful. Halogen lights are great because they create a single clear shadow, and that's what you want. You want something that's sharp. So think of your phone. The light in your phone, the LED there, will actually create a very similar kind of shadow. It stays sharp even when you get far away, but as you can see, the shadows get smaller when you get close to the screen, and then farther away as you grow back, a little distorted. You want to avoid things that have multiple lights in them, or else you'll get multiple shadows. These are some of the tools I use. Pens, pencils, markers, erasers. I've got a little craft knife and a cutting board to work with as well. That's where all the cutting happens, and it takes a long time. And then, I use leaves for this one, but obviously you don't have to. Enjoy. Have fun making your own scary stories.